Has someone close to you started changing, but in ways that you can't quite explain? Maybe they sleep a little longer. Maybe their plate isn't as full as it used to be. Maybe when you look into their eyes, they feel just a bit farther away. It's easy to chalk it up to just getting older, a natural slowing down, a quiet shift in routine. But what if these soft, almost invisible changes are something more? The truth is, for many older adults, the end doesn't come like a thunderclap. It comes like twilight, gentle, gradual, and full of signs that only those who are truly paying attention can see. A forgotten meal, a slower walk, a deeper silence. These aren't alarms, they're whispers. The body and spirit beginning to speak a different language. And when we learn to listen, really listen, we can move from helplessness to presence, from fear to love. This video isn't here to scare you. It's here to hold your hand, to help you recognize 6 quiet but powerful signs that someone you love may be entering their final chapter. Not so you can try to fix them, but so you can walk beside them with more understanding, more care, and more grace. Because when you know what to look for, you stop fighting the unknown and start cherishing what time is left with your heart wide open. So let's begin, gently, with the first and often most overlooked sign: unexplained weight loss. It started with her favorite pants feeling a little loose. At first it was nothing, just a passing joke. I guess I'm shrinking. Then came the comments, "You look thinner. Have you been dieting?" She smiled politely, but inside something had already begun to shift. Margaret was 86, always petite, always graceful. But in just a few short months, her daughter noticed. Her arms looked like fragile branches. Her cheeks, once rosy, had begun to hollow. And that familiar spark in her eyes dimmed, like the last flicker of a candle nearing its end. She wasn't finishing her meals anymore. Said food didn't taste right. Said she just wasn't hungry. So many families miss this moment. They think, it's just old age, or maybe she's just not feeling well this week. But unintentional weight loss in the elderly, especially when it's quiet and gradual, is rarely meaningless. Sometimes the body stops absorbing nutrients like it used to. Other times, it's the appetite that fades or the digestive system slowing down in preparation for something deeper. It may even be emotional. Grief, loneliness, depression. They don't always show up in tears. Sometimes they show up in untouched plates. And here's the hardest part. Even when you try, bringing favorite foods, cooking with love, adding protein drinks, it often doesn't work. Because this isn't about the food. It's about what the body is gently trying to say. If someone you love is losing weight without trying, this could be the body's way of whispering, "I'm slowing down. I'm preparing." So how do we respond? Not with urgency, not with pressure, but with compassion. Offer small, nourishing meals. Easy to chew, easy to enjoy. Create a calm, unhurried space around food. Let meal times become moments of presence, not performance. And most importantly, understand that this may not be a problem to solve, but a message to receive. If you're still watching and this resonates with your experience, please comment number 1 below. Your voice helps others feel less alone in this journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd be honored to have you join us. Your support helps us reach families who need guidance, not fear. Because when we stop trying to pull someone back into who they were, we begin to honor who they are right now. And that is the truest kind of care. Now let's move forward softly to the next sign, one that often follows close behind, a deep and persistent fatigue that no amount of rest can erase. Eleanor had always been the kind of woman who kept moving. Even in her late 80s, she folded her laundry with care, tidied her room each morning, and walked to the mailbox like it was her daily ritual of pride. But then, the rhythm changed. At first, she paused halfway through making the bed. Then she needed to sit after crossing the room. One afternoon, her daughter found her sitting quietly, halfway through tying her shoes, breathless, as if she'd climbed a hill. It wasn't sudden. It was slow, almost invisible at first, but it was real. Many families mistake this kind of exhaustion for laziness or old age, or just a bad week. But when simple tasks begin to drain someone completely, when rest no longer refuels them, something deeper may be happening. The body quite literally begins to power down. The energy that once stretched across hours now flickers out after minutes. Muscles weaken. Breathing becomes shallower. Recovery takes longer and longer. And still, we encourage them to try harder. But this is not a moment to push. This is a moment to understand. If your loved one is slowing down, struggling to complete what once came easily, let that be enough reason to pause, to adjust, to meet them where they are, not where they used to be. This isn't giving up. It's honoring what their body is gently asking for. Less doing, more being. So what can you do? Make things easier to reach. Choose chairs with arms for better support. Give permission to rest, to skip, to sit quietly without guilt. And most of all, resist the urge to fix. Because fatigue in life's final chapter isn't laziness. It's nature asking for tenderness. If you're still here and this message resonates with your heart, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're walking this road too. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I warmly invite you to. Your presence helps this space grow into a circle of support for others who feel the same fears and carry the same love. Now let's continue gently into a shift that happens not in the body first, but in the mind, when the thoughts begin to blur and the heart begins to pull away before the body ever does. Let's talk about cognitive confusion and emotional withdrawal. A few months before my friend Harold passed, something began to change. So softly at first, it was almost missed. He'd always been sharp, could tell you the exact date of a wedding in 1963, or recall a story from his Navy days down to the color of the sky. But then one morning, he asked when his wife would be home. His wife, who had passed away 5 years earlier. That moment didn't come with sirens or tears. It came like a cold draft through a familiar room. Unsettling, quiet, undeniable. At first, there were just small slips, misplaced keys in the refrigerator, a story told twice in the same conversation. Long pauses, like he was searching for a name he used to know without effort. Many families assume these moments are just senior moments. But in the final season of life, the mind often begins to drift before the body does. It's not always confusion in the dramatic sense. Sometimes it's a quiet turning inward, like a curtain slowly being drawn between the world outside and the one inside. You may notice them speaking less, letting conversations wash over them instead of joining in, spending more time looking out the window than watching TV. And it's not because they've stopped caring, it's because their energy is being spent differently now. The mind, like the body, is beginning to let go. I remember visiting Joyce, a woman who once lit up every family gathering. Now she sat near the window, tracing the outline of tree branches with her eyes. She wasn't sad, she was simply somewhere else, peaceful but distant. This emotional withdrawal can feel painful for those who love them. We want to bring them back, to joke, to chat, to fill the silence. But sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is sit beside them in that silence, not to pull them out, but to be there as they are. So if your loved one seems confused or emotionally distant, don't correct, don't push. Instead, speak softly, hold their hand. Let the stillness be safe. Create a space that feels calm, familiar music, gentle lighting, quiet routines. Remind them, not with words, but with presence, that they're not alone. Because even when memory fades, the feeling of being loved does not. If this sign feels familiar to you, please comment number 3 below. Your story matters, and your presence helps others feel less alone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to join this circle of care and compassion. Now let's move forward to another quiet signal. This time, one that shows up on the skin, in fevers that don't go away, and in cuts that take far too long to heal. Let's talk about frequent infections and slow healing. It began with a scrape, barely more than a scratch, on Arthur's arm, something that months ago would have healed in days. But this time, it lingered, red, tender, stubborn. The nurses cleaned it daily, Ointments, bandages, patience, and still it refused to heal. Around the same time, Arthur caught a cold. Not a severe one, just the kind that usually passed with rest and soup. But it didn't pass. It hung on like fog after sunrise, thin but unmoving. Then came the low fevers, the urinary tract infection, the constant fatigue. None of it felt like an emergency, but together it painted a quiet picture. The body was beginning to surrender. In the final stretch of life, the immune system, the body's inner guardian, begins to slow down. It's not broken, it's simply tired. Wounds that once closed in a week now take weeks. A sniffle becomes a chest infection. A small cut becomes a lingering sore. And the signs aren't always what we expect. The fever might be low, or not there at all. Instead, you may notice confusion, sleepiness, a loss of appetite. These aren't just illnesses. They're messages, whispers from the body saying, "I no longer have the strength to fight like before." Families often respond with good intentions. More antibiotics, more doctor visits, more plans. But sometimes the goal needs to shift, not from healing, but toward comfort. Not from fixing, but toward softness. What does that look like? Warm blankets, fresh, clean sheets, sips of tea, a hand to hold during the quiet hours. Celebrating the small victories, a peaceful night's sleep, a day without pain, a smile that appears, even if briefly. These moments are not lesser than recovery. They are what matter most now. If you're still watching and you've seen these signs in someone you love, please comment number 4 below. Your story could offer comfort to someone who needs it right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so. Together, we're creating a space where families can find wisdom, peace, and shared understanding. Now let us move forward gently to another sign. This one arrives in breath that shortens, in hands that grow colder, and in the silent shifting of blood from the skin to the organs that still hold on. Let's talk about changes in breathing and circulation. I remember sitting with my neighbor Helen on a quiet afternoon. She had always been so full of life, tending to her garden, telling stories with spark in her voice, walking her little path like it was sacred ground. But something had shifted. Her steps were slower now, her words softer, like they came from a deeper place. And more than once, she'd pause mid-sentence, just to catch her breath. Her hands, once warm and always moving, now rested still and cool in her lap. A bluish tint kissed her fingertips, faint but undeniable. She said she was just tired, but I could feel it. Her body was speaking. As life draws closer to its final chapter, circulation begins to change. The heart, now working with care, redirects energy inward, to where it's needed most. Blood moves away from the skin and limbs, conserving warmth and strength for the vital organs. And so, you may begin to see cool hands, pale or bluish skin, breath that grows shallow or uneven. Moments where they breathe quickly, then pause before starting again. Some call this pattern Cheney-Stokes breathing. To the ears, it can sound unsettling, but to the soul, it is the body's lullaby, slowing down in rhythm with the life it has carried for so long. You might also notice your loved ones sleeping propped up rather than lying flat. It's not just comfort, it may be their body easing the pressure on tired lungs, helping each breath come a little easier. And sometimes a soft rattling sound begins. Mucus that no longer clears as easily, a gentle hum of the body beginning to let go. These are not emergencies, they are transitions, signals that life is becoming quieter, not in fear, but in preparation. So how do we respond? With peace, with gentleness, with fewer instructions, and more presence. Place a pillow behind their back, keep the room quiet and dim. Offer water if they're able, or simply moisten their lips. Sit beside them, speak softly, hold their hand, and let them feel your calm in the stillness. Because in these moments, words matter less than your warmth. And sometimes the most healing thing you can offer is to simply stay. If you're still with me and this sign feels familiar in your journey, please comment number 5 below. I'd be honored to know you're here and that this message has found you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you into this space we're building. A quiet place for understanding, comfort, and shared strength. Now let us move forward with care and grace to the final sign, one that isn't always seen with the eyes but felt deeply in the heart: the shift in emotional expression and personality. A few weeks before my Uncle Ray passed, something inside him softened. He had always been a quiet man, stoic, reserved, the kind who carried his feelings like folded letters in a drawer, rarely opened, never discarded. But suddenly, he began speaking. He told stories we'd never heard before, about childhood games, his mother's cooking, the sound of the rain on a tin roof when he was a boy. He asked to see old photographs, and one day, almost shyly, he whispered, "I love you," more than we had ever remembered hearing in all the years before. It was as if some hidden door had opened, just for a moment. Others, like Clara down the street, changed in the opposite direction. Once the life of every Sunday supper, she grew quieter, withdrawn. She no longer lit up at visitors or reached for her favorite radio station. She preferred the silence now. Long stretches of stillness, staring out the window at the sky, the trees, the fading light. These changes can be confusing for those who love them. We ask ourselves, why is she pulling away? Why is he suddenly so emotional or so detached? But in truth, these shifts are not signs of giving up. They are signs of turning inward. In life's final chapter, the spirit often begins to rearrange itself. Some begin to reflect, offering forgiveness, expressing gratitude, or speaking truths long held inside. Others grow quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're listening to something we cannot hear. There may be moments of irritability, mood swings, or an almost otherworldly calm. These aren't personal, they aren't rejection, they are processing, the mind and heart preparing in the only way they know how. So how do we respond? We stop trying to fix. We listen more than we speak. We offer gentle reassurance, not by changing who they are, but by staying beside them as they become someone new. If your loved one begins to change in how they feel, speak, or relate to the world, know this: they are still themselves, just closer now to something deeper. And even if the words are few, the love remains. If this sign speaks to something you've witnessed, please comment number 6 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to be part of this circle of care and honesty. Now, as we prepare to close this journey together, let us pause and reflect on everything we've uncovered. Because recognizing these changes isn't about giving up, it's about showing up, fully and with love. Let's take this final step together. So now we've walked this quiet path together, step by step. 6 signs, 6 soft messengers of change. Not loud, not sudden, but present, if we know how to see them. We've talked about the clothes that no longer fit because the body is letting go of weight, the tired limbs that grow heavier even when the task is small, the mind that begins to fade, gently pulling away from the world, the cuts that don't heal, and the fevers that whisper instead of roar, the breath that comes in patterns, uneven, shallow, sacred, and the heart that expresses itself in unfamiliar but deeply meaningful ways. These signs aren't tragedies, they're invitations to slow down, to hold tighter, to love deeper without waiting for the right words or the perfect moment. Because when you know what's happening, not just medically but emotionally, you stop bracing against the unknown and you start leaning into what matters most. This is not about giving up, it's about tuning in to what the body is saying, to what the spirit is preparing for, to the beauty of simply being there, fully present when someone you love is approaching life's final threshold. And in that presence, there is power, there is peace, there is grace. So if something in this video touched your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or someone quietly preparing for your own transition, your voice belongs here. And if this video helped you feel seen, I hope you'll give it a like and subscribe. Your support allows us to keep creating these conversations, honest, loving, and unafraid. Above all, please remember you are not alone. Whether you're holding someone's hand or wondering who will one day hold yours, this space is here for you, with warmth, with wisdom, with care. wishing you strength where it's needed, peace where it's possible, and gentle joy in every moment that remains. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, take good care of yourself and those you love.